Hello, powerful. It's Lisa, your generative power coach. Today, I want to talk about controlling your calendar. All right, this is such an important topic to each and every person that I coach. It's important to me. I feel like I'm uniquely qualified to talk to you about this because I've coached hundreds and maybe thousands of people on the topic of controlling your calendar. And I know that I have played around and experimented with different ways of controlling my calendar. So I want to share some key tips with you and an exercise, and I hope it's helpful. And it can't cover everything, of course, that you are struggling with personally or that you might be struggling with personally and professionally. But I hope there's some tips in here, some nuggets that will help you to become more efficient and control your calendar so that you can use your time to generate more power for yourself. As I discussed, when you are trying to please people, you are giving away your power. You're leaking power like a colander. And you don't want to do that. You want to retain as much power as you can. So, some of the things that happen to people with regards to their calendar is in a work environment, often people will put meetings on the calendar for you. And they're doing that without looking at your calendar or consulting you on whether or not that time works for you. Or what I would experience when I was back in the corporate world is even though my calendar was blocked off, someone would go ahead and book a meeting with me anyway. I learned that what I needed to do was train myself so that I retrained that person. So basically, I trained myself so that I was retraining the person who was doing this to me. So what would I do? I would reject that meeting, but I wouldn't just reject it. I would also send a note saying, my calendar shows that I am busy during that time. This is an important meeting for me. If you look at my calendar, you'll see that there are several time slots available. If those don't work for you, please let me know and we'll figure something out. And you have to do that with certain people repeatedly so that they learn that you're not going to just rearrange your plans and accept what they're doing. This also lends itself to an in-person discussion. We tend to generalize that everybody's putting meetings on our calendar without looking at our calendar. And when it comes down to it, it's often one, two, or three people who are doing this. Not everybody's rude in that way or self-centered in that way, but some people are. So I think it lends itself to an in-person conversation where you're saying, hey, are you looking at my calendar when you're booking a meeting? Now, you might find that some people are just unaware that they're supposed to do that. They just didn't get the training or the mentoring to do that. And so you're doing them a service by telling them this. Because if they're doing it to you, they're certainly doing it to other people as well. They're probably not just doing it to you to piss you off or because they're being disrespectful. They just don't know any better. Or they believe that their agenda is way more important than anything else you got going on. So there's that. The other thing is, actually, there's a lot of things, but another thing is something I learned from a friend of mine probably about 10 years ago. And when I heard her say this, I was just like, oh my God, why did I not know this? She said, I tell my team that it's okay to book your own work time. We all need work blocks where we have quiet time to get our work done that we get paid for, right? And if we have like a half hour to work and then we go to a meeting, another hour to work and then we go to a meeting, it's hard to be productive. So block work blocks for yourself. Create work blocks for yourself on your calendar and don't feel guilty about that. That actually allows you to get your work done that you get paid for. And it's up to you to give up that time to people for meetings if you want to, but I would think very, very carefully before you do that. Another thing is to put a block of time on your calendar to manage your calendar. So we sometimes don't know what we're going to be doing several weeks in advance. But if you look at your calendar and make sure you update it with your work blocks, with your other activities that are important to you, like once a week or every other week, you're going to find that your calendar becomes much more manageable. So the activity that I've laid out for you is as follows. It's get what I call a play calendar, or this is your generative power calendar. And what I want you to do is create your optimal life calendar. If you weren't answering to anybody else, if you had no other responsibilities, what would you put on your calendar that would help you to achieve your vision? I live in the real world along with you, and I know this isn't really possible to work this way, to live this way, but this is a thought exercise because it's going to get you thinking more expansively about what's possible in your day, in your life, and that will lead you to creating your vision. So I actually want you to be a little selfish now. Create your play calendar. Put on there the things that you would love to be doing. Social activities that you want to get to. Are there workouts? Quality time with your children or other family members? Date nights? Professional networking? Researching the topic that you're wanting to become more of an expert on. Do you need writing blocks? Do you need blocks of time for starting a business? Doctor's appointments. These are so important, by the way. I don't know if you know this about me, but I had breast cancer 10 years ago and I had a bilateral mastectomy. Now, I had many options for my treatments because it was detected early, because I had my mammograms every single year. So there was a history of mammogram results that they could look at and they could see the differences. Now, this applies to everything, right? Your vision, your physicals, a colonoscopy, all these fun doctor's appointments that we get to go to, right? Make sure you make time for that in your schedule. Don't put that off because you are going along with someone else's agenda. You need to take care of yourself so that you can be more powerful in your life and have a greater impact, and then take care of the others around you. Do you want to work on your public speaking or maybe improv lessons, which lend themselves to public speaking, by the way? Do you want to do volunteer work? Or what else do you want to achieve? I'll also say that to create this play calendar, you can go just create a Gmail account. Just use any name that works for you that you're playing around with, because every time you create a Gmail account, you also get a Google Calendar that you can get to by going to calendar.google.com. And I'm saying to create just like a fake one because other calendars that you might have, other Gmail accounts, they might be tied to other calendars that you have, and you just want to make sure you mess around in a clean sandbox type of environment. You can also just create one on paper, or if you have a whiteboard, you can do that, or you can go to the dollar store or Five Below and get a cheap calendar, whatever you want to do, but give yourself permission to play with your optimal calendar. And then when you're done with your personal wish list, I want you to add in the time for work that you actually get paid for, and make sure to include commuting time. Because I'm not suggesting that you give up work, but I want you to put the things that are most important to you first so that you can see them laid out without saying no to yourself. I know what's going to happen. You're going to start writing things down and you're going to be like, no, I can't put that down. No, I have other things to do. No, this time just put the things down without saying no to yourself. All right? And see where you land on your calendar. Then put in your work time and your commute time. Then put in other family commitments or social commitments that you might not have put in before. And then anything else that's important to you in your life. I also want you to include your sleep time. If you're someone that needs 7 hours of sleep or 8 hours of sleep, make sure you put that on your calendar so it's accounted for. And then what I call bed prep time. What time do you need to start getting ready for bed so that you can be asleep lights out by 10 or 10:30 or 11 o'clock or whatever it is for you? Make sure you put that on your calendar so you're being realistic about what you can get done in the course of a day and the course of a week. Now that you've got everything on your calendar, you're going to need to rearrange some things and see what you need to get rid of, right? Now, assuming that you work for a living, maybe you are at a job where there's a set schedule that someone is making for you, and maybe it varies by day or by week. If that needs to adjust, if you want to shift that to create your optimal life, maybe you can have a conversation with your manager or someone else about the possibility of doing that. Because often we go along in these routines and we assume that we can't change the pattern, we can't change your schedule. If it's important to you to change your schedule, I highly recommend talking to your manager about that and really thinking about what would the optimal schedule be for you. And also related to work, can you shift your work hours otherwise? If you're responsible for your own schedule, are there certain start and stop times that you have gotten used to, and maybe it would serve you well to adjust those? Something to think about. All right, so now you've got all these things on your calendar. Move things around, shift things around, make it work for you, and make sure you've got some of those high priority things on your calendar. I gave you a long list of items that you could potentially include, and you're gonna have to pare those back, I understand. But make sure you've got those included and factored in so that at the end of this, you're not like, oh, I didn't do any of it. I don't know when I'm going to do that. No, because part of this exercise is creating your optimal calendar. Also, you're going to sit down and do this, and then things are going to occur to you. So this, along with so many other exercises, are not a one and done sort of activity. You start doing it, and then something might hit you while you're in the shower, you're taking a walk, you're doing something else, you're driving somewhere, and you're like, oh, I can do this with a certain time block, and that's going to make a big difference. So it's a starting point, but then give yourself grace to know that other things are going to occur to you, and you're going to find other ways to optimize your calendar and your schedule. I hope that's helpful, and I look forward to hearing about how your calendars turn out and what you're shifting in your life.
Lesson learned there, and we can apply that to what we already know